part is on changing profession. This is how education is changing. And so a number of things that may be a surprise to you, but it give you some insight to the education in this profession. First of all, a number of competing views, and we're never seen it more than our change in politics, our change in leadership in Washington, talking about the different things that's important. What are those views? We call it the essential profession because it's the base of so many other professions, of course. That quality of education has a strong impact on our nation's social, economic, and political health. And how we know that is we have a number of things that we know from the politics of it. And also even the economics. We know that our prisons are filled with people that don't have very good educations. And everyone has a vested interest in that quality of our schools. And I, for one, have kids in school. And so we find that important too. So what are these competing views? Well, there are so many views on what needs to be done to make our schools better. And the reason being, and this is what you'll want to know, is everybody that's ever been in a school has some idea of what should be taught in the school and how it should be taught. Unlike any other profession, we don't really have a good feel of how doctors should be trained and how doctors should do their work or that type of thing. But we all have been in a school, and so we have some ideas and some suggestions for that. So here's some focus questions for this chapter on how are things changing. First of all, what are the roots of that education background? What are the realities of teachers face each day? Complexities, and I'm going to ask you to understand the complexities of it. Student populations and the demand of accountability affect teachers' work. I'm going to ask you to do a little self-study on accountability. Teachers licensure meaning license, and in our state of South Dakota you have to have a license to teach, as you do in all 50 states, and they're somewhat transferable from one state to another, but the state is the one that grants license, not universities. Our universities can make a recommendation. We check the box to say that you've met requirements, but universities do not grant license. So the university does not grant a degree, it's always the state. So here are the foundations. There's a social and philosophical one, historical, a political, curriculum, instructional, and legal. Okay? Those are your notes. Let's look at these one at a time. First of all, what is good society and how should education contribute to that society? And this is what makes education a challenge, is everybody has a different idea. It goes back to everybody wanting to be part of it and helping decide. So how do we develop a good philosophy when we all have such different ideas about it? Here's one that we can battle daily, is what should be taught. Because so much of this now is dictated by the standardized tests that we take, that takes a lot of it away. Here's something that it's forever changing, is who should be taught. You must be saying, of course, everybody, but you realize it wasn't until 1975 was the first time that we passed a public law that said special education, special needs kids were entitled to an education. So that's really not very long ago. One of the things we continually struggle with, and you'll have an opinion on, what about illegal immigrant children? Are they entitled to an education? Not everybody agrees with it. So where did, let me see here. Here's the historical foundations of education that we'll ask. Where did current school practices and traditions come from? And are they still important? And as we go through this exercise on foundations of education, you'll see we have a lot of things that we still hang on to in education that are from old practices that we're not sure are still valid. How about political foundations? Who has that power to decide? Well, for a long time, of course, it was local people, but we've kind of given that away for money. Um, what I say money is that as the state gave money and federals gave the state money, each time, of course, anytime you take money from anyone, there's conditions hooked to it. And so now, if you want the money, you have to do what they say. And so we've given some of that power away. How about the curriculum? Well, what is taught in the schools? Why is it taught? Who gets to ask that? Who gets to answer that? So those are some things that that come into play in this foundation. Again, as with each chapter, you're going to want to read through this. There's a lot of different thoughts on these different things. So what is good teaching? What is that balance between traditional instructional strategies and those based on research? Research if the brain operates and processes information. Also comes into play here is where does technology come into play? Where does the computer and all the technological things, where do they play in this balance of what is good teaching and what is learning? And legal foundations. What are the legal and ethical rights and responsibilities of teachers? We'll do a number of things with that. What are the legal and ethical rights of the learners? That's always a little bit in question. So let's jump on to that next section. Let me walk you through this. Here's the electronic textbook I have. So here's the complexity of teaching that we will start on now. Classrooms are very public and multi-dimensional environments that require alert and active teachers. Good day in the life. So here is this on the dimensionalities of it. So what do they do all day? Well, one of the things that we ask our student teachers do is to plan those lessons and be able to demonstrate that they've planned their teaching. This has changed somewhat in the last 10 to 20 years. It's keeping those records and other administrative duties. Often, especially in our smaller schools, there will be a number of other activities connected to your job as teaching. You would supervise those curricular activities. Now we have a lot of people need to participate in committees to make school decisions for your building, your school building. Maybe professional groups. This is one that I have found now that my kids are in school, that communicating with parents is an important one, that to continually have communication, and that involves web pages and emails as well as one-to-one contacts. And then some in-school things like playground duties or lunchrooms come into play, and special events. If you've got conferences, we just had our carnival at our school and concerts. Those types of things always involve the teacher. So that's what they do all day. So here's some aspects of it. First is we call it multi-dimensionality, many dimensions. So in addition to planning and instructional delivery, a teacher must do these things. Diagnose learning difficulties. We expect you to have some training when you come into our school as a teacher, that you have some training in this area, how to do that. Spot misconceptions of students and of parents and families. Monitor that progress. That one of the things that's changed even in the last 5 years is now you have to demonstrate, you have to document student learning. You used to be able to do this with a grade on the report card, and I'm here to tell you that will not be sufficient. There's so much grade inflation now that you will have to document those students are learning. Of course, you have to make on-the-spot judgments of as far as classroom management and learning and teaching, those types of things. You have to respond to unexpected events that happen in your school or in your classroom. All kinds of things, again, with student behaviors or parents. There's cold, hot, all kinds of changes. Also, you have to administer standardized tests. And that's got to be a big part, because we're starting to learn from the research that this to administer and prepare students for standardized tests is almost as important as taking the test. I mean, and teaching them about the test is actual test taking things. You have to attend meetings, of course. Gets to be a big record. Keep records, relate to parents, work with colleagues, and create instructional materials. All are things that become just part of your regular day and regular job of teaching. So instructional planning, now multidimensionality, now simultaneity. You have to be responding immediately in multiple stimuli things in your class. Like when standing before a class, you must watch for indications of comprehension, interest, and attention. And you must listen to answer to spot misconceptions, signs of confusion, and determine relevance, and provide assistance to one learner when you must at the same time monitor behavior of the rest of the class and devise ways to keep students focused when dealing with interruptions. One of the things that I often tell students is when you've achieved success in teaching is when you can have multiple things going on at the room at the same time, because you're always going to have some students that are very fast learners, some that are average, and some are slow. So how do you do all these things to keep those students focused when you have all those different dimensions of it? And the other thing that makes this profession a little bit different than others is immediacy. Immediately how you have to prepare and respond to different things. Like a proactive teacher, your school days, and think about kinds of situations that might develop in the classroom and consider some possible response, like role play with veteran teachers, ask for opinions to likely occurrences like inattention, noise, sleeping, fighting, cursing, cell phones, lateness, lack of homework, food, illness, injury. All those things need immediate decisions. So many other professions, there's time to what we do reflective decision making. But in teaching, people in general, mostly with kids, you have to make immediate decisions and quick decisions in these areas. So immediacy is another. And then, of course, the unpredictability of teaching. There's such an inconsistent pattern of and unexpected events that will come your way. Teacher response to unpredicted events will vary with individual personality, philosophy, and general orientation of teaching. But what you have to do is be ready to deal with unpredictable things. A person who is uncomfortable in situations that features unpredictability might want to consider a career other than teaching. If you're not able to step up quickly to those situations, you're going to be really frustrated and anxious trying to be a teacher, because they're going to come your way. I've seen and worked with and had for my teachers people that were uncomfortable with unpredictable things. And I'm telling you, this is an unpredictable profession. And then different, in my opinion, than any other profession you might get in is the publicness of it. That everybody can observe it and everybody has an opinion. Students monitor every in-class action the instructor takes. Very few other professions will you have a group that monitors your every movement and your every word. Teacher actions will be observed and interpreted and have consequences beyond the immediate situation. Why? Because they walk out of your classroom and they talk to each other, they talk to parents, and they talk to the community. And that's the consequences beyond that immediate situation that you deal with immediately. Parents are welcome in the classroom and to make observations and interpretations. Would you be comfortable with a classroom that parents can come in when they want to? That parents can walk in and monitor? That's where we're headed. If you're uncomfortable with that, you're going to be frustrated with this too, because we're seeing more and more schools offering this to families, that they have open doors. Parents can come in and observe in their classrooms. And then the history is another part of this, that interactions over time. History plays an important part. You have an ongoing record of interactions between the teacher and the students. In the manner in which the teacher relates to learners, plans instruction, reacts to unpredictability. The other thing with history, this class culture sometimes, that students can have a history with school that you're unaware of when you have them, of poor performance or poor interaction with teachers, And sometimes you get that dumped in your lap as the teacher from some previous teacher, previous learning, previous classroom. And so now your ongoing interactions with them start to build on previous ones. And of course, you get students that come in that have had excellent interactions in the past, and you get the benefit of that also. But you'll have some that have not had that. So what are some changes in that theories of teaching and learning? Well, constructivism. And if you have not heard that term, it's a buzz for about the last 10 years or so. It holds the mind as always searching for patterns and attempting to resolve discrepancies. And I have seen that in my own kids. I can remember when they were just, as I record this, mine are 8 and 10. They're in 2nd and 4th grade. But I can remember when they were much younger, the older one said one day there was a fly, and I killed the fly. And I said, the fly's laying there. And he was about 3 at the time, and he said, "Is it dead?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Like Grandma?" Because his grandma's been dead for 25 years now. He never knew his grandma. I said, "Yes." He said, "What happens now? We'll go to heaven like Grandma?" What do you do with that? But the theory being, he was trying to find that pattern. What does this mean to me? This is what constructivism is. What does that mean to me? Dead, I don't know what to do with that. I need to connect it with something I know about. This is what constructivism is built on. This is the essence of learning. Taking new information and putting it with the old information you already have. And then resolve those discrepancies because it was hard to explain. No, the fly didn't go to heaven. Individuals create knowledge as they interact with the world around them. They build their own knowledge. And then the construction of new knowledge is rooted in that prior knowledge. Okay? The fly's dead like Grandma. Here, I know about dead. We've heard the story of Grandma. Now I've got new dead, this fly that Dad just killed with a fly swatter. The cultural and social and cultural context heavily influence what is constructed or learned. We'll take it from other areas. We take it through other people. That's those we call them filters. That is constructivism. So what are some implications of that constructivism? Well, the conditions that best facilitate learning are described as learner-centered and problem-centered. Okay? So it's something the students learn or they solve problems. In this, learners must be provided with complex and complete and authentic problems to solve to be the basis of constructivism. Learners need to be actively engaged in the learning process by seeking solutions and sharing ideas. Okay, and you can do this from elementary students, of course, on through graduate school students. Assessment procedures focus on how well students solve problems and explain what they have discovered and learned, because often they learn things about themselves, but it isn't always that they are able to solve a problem, it's that they have a process. They come up with a process. Takes us back to this is what constructive is, that what do they already know? They reorganize this new information to solve the problems. Multiple intelligence. Have you heard of multiple intelligence? It's been around quite a while. Gardner was the guy's name that first came up with it. It's different levels of ability and individual categories. Okay? And so you may have an intelligence different than what other people do and the way you learn. And schools are just trying to come to grips with this from the standpoint of there might be different ways to teach, different ways to reach different learners. And it makes teachers nervous some. And I'm hoping that you're the next generation of teachers, you all, are better able to grasp this. And these are the areas of the different multiple intelligence from Gardner. Let me take you someplace else. Back to the textbook. and you'll want to read through this because there's questions on the test uh, about this. So this is on page 17, page 17 of your textbook, and it looks at what we are just talking about, these different multiple intelligences. And so as we look at these, uh, I just want you to know what the different ones are before we do this. Logical, mathematical intelligence. People with strengths in this area are good at seeking meaning through analytical process and involve the use of abstract symbols. And then there's a linguistic intelligence. And you've got to imagine what that is. Somebody that's good with words, making sense of world through language. And then a musical intelligence. People with strengths in this area have the capacity to communicate and create meaning that involves consideration of sound. Of course, young people all think they have musical as their high one, and it is early on. But as time goes on, you'll find some of the same people who thought they had musical thing did not have the rhythm and stuff. So that's an interesting one. The next being spatial intelligence. People with strengths in this area have the facility in perceiving, transforming, and recreating visual images that contribute to the understanding of the world, that you can visualize things. And sometimes men are better at that than women. I know I have a little bit of this, and I have one of my boys do, and the other one does not. And this one kind of plays into that body kinesthetic intelligence. People with strength in this area are good at using muscular and other body systems to respond to situations and solve problems. And one of the things that's interesting is our schools aren't really set up for this. But some people that have a real strength in this need to get up and move and do things and use their hands and lift things and experience things that way. And schools don't really aren't set up for that very well. And then interpersonal intelligence. People with strengths in this area are particularly good at recognizing and responding to feelings and motivations of others. Now, which group is usually strong in that? Our elementary teachers. The elementary teachers want interpersonal things. Let's work together. That's what elementary teachers say. Intrapersonal are people with strengths in this area heavily weigh their own personal capacities and attitudes when determining which course of action to follow in a given situation. They, for the most part, know themselves, want to work by themselves. Then we have a naturalist intelligence. People with strengths in this area are especially good at making inferences based on classification in the physical world. And then extensional intelligence. People in the strengths area seek insights regarding ultimate issues such as meaning of life and other things. Okay, and so there are those different ones, and the implications of these are that you would avoid labels and vary your instruction. And we'll take a look at this. But first, I want to take you out on this about emotional intelligence. Yet another dimension of the concept of multiple intelligence has been added. Define this emotional intelligence as the ability to exercise self-control, remain persistent, be self-motivated. And individuals with high levels of emotional intelligence have developed expertise in these 5 areas. Now, see if any of these fit you. How about mood management, or self-awareness, self-motivation, empathy, or managing relationships? Okay, so those are some strengths. That's a different intelligence. A mood manager, a person's ability to handle feelings in ways that are appropriate to and from and relevant for a situation. So you walk through these and just understand this is another kind of intelligence that we don't often recognize and deal with. But with that, I want to take you back here to emotional intelligence. And if you'll, I have this on Wiki site here, but you click out here and it takes you out to this emotional intelligence, and it looks like this. And what I'm going to ask you each to do is go ahead and take this test. And it's, like I said, it's on our Wiki site right here under multiple intelligence. Okay, and so you take the test, and there's only about 30 things to do. You click on this one for English version and do the little demographics, but you read through all these different things, and when you're done, it'll give you results. And let me just show you what that results looks like. Comes out, and this is mine here. Okay, what I'd like you to do, this is important. Copy this thing here. Maybe another place to get that. So you should be able to copy here and then bring it back to here, and now just paste it in here. For example, here, if I was Melissa, I would just paste it there. And what I'm going to do, and you can see mine here, what I'm going to do is go ahead and, once those are in there, take those and make kind of a class one. But here you can see mine. I'll let me come back here. I have a high one in this kinesthetic thing, which is kind of a surprise to me, but I also am high in this area. And I knew this, that musical is my lowest. Not that I don't like music, I do. I just don't know music, and it isn't, how I learn really. And I knew, being an old farm boy, this is a little bit of a surprising, but I don't have that feel for nature. And this is a high one for me too, and I would have thought so. So you kind of analyze your own as far as the learning, and then I say copy that one number and bring it back here so that this number down here, so I can make kind of a class-wide graph for us. Okay. So again, this takes what are these different ones. And hopefully in your methods in time to come that your methods will teach you how to incorporate these. That kinesthetic is that body smart. What was mine? This intrapersonal, logical, just takes you off that way. So this is out of your textbook, and that is those debates on the purpose of education. What are the purposes of education? I got these right out of your textbook on page 18 right here. And those debates on purpose. As you strive for excellence in education, seek to defend your instructional decisions, one of the realities you will face is that people hold wildly different views regarding what schools and educators should be doing. You will find that different individuals often give quite varied answers to questions such as, what subject should our schools emphasize? Should we be primarily concerned about preparing academic professional individuals for higher education? Having told you that, let me tell you, only 50% of our graduates will attempt college. Does that seem a little low? Around 50% will attempt, and of those, only half will become college graduates. So one of the things that we can debate is, should that be the focus of our public schools, is prepare people for college? And same way, what should we emphasize? Again, when you know that it's going to be half attempting college, should we emphasize vocational or employment type things? Then how about here, should we be producing individuals with marketable vocational skills? Should we have a goal in our public school systems that when they graduate, they're ready to work? We can debate that till the end. I'm certified as a vocational teacher, and that was one of the things that was reinforced day after day when I was in school learning to be a vocational teacher, to teach vocational skills, is that when the kids graduate from your program, they should be ready to go to work and market the skills you've taught them. Should schools be addressing social justice issues? And that is kind of a political debate. That the new administration built his entire platform on social justice issues. So what social justice issues? Everybody gets treated the same regardless. The next one, to what extent should schools address persistent social problems such as substance abuse and healthy living? One of the things we're going to challenge you with is you need to be part of, in our school system, is addressing social ills. Now, having said that, You're wondering what role you will play. Well, here's one that's on the horizon, has just come into play the last several years, and that is the obesity, not only in our children, but in our culture. And I assure you, we will approach this through our school system. And you will probably play a role in that, whatever you're teaching, that you'll have to add or subtract things from your curriculum, your teaching, to deal with that. Let me jump back here. To what extent should schools be developing moral and ethical character? Does that make you nervous? Should, because we can't always agree what is moral and ethical. That everybody has a different view. For example, one of the new buzzes in New Age type spiritual belief is morals are relative to your situation. For example, is it ever okay to steal? Is it ever okay to cheat? Well, you're going to say no to both of those, but there's a group, a movement saying, well, it depends on the situation. You got your back against the wall, you're going to not get this paper done, or you're going to fail something. The only way to make it work is to cheat, and therefore to save you from the situation, you go ahead and cheat. And we can make a case that doesn't violate either of those. So it'll be interesting in your time as a teacher what role you'll play in that. Should there be standardized exceptions for all learners? Or should there be focus on the development of the unique and potential individual? Should just be a standard curriculum that everybody must learn, or should we have some kind of a individual curriculum for everybody based on their needs? Get to find out. What should the schools do to prepare individuals for their citizenship responsibilities? Well, let's go back now. This is from page 19, and that is this standard-based education. Right here on page 19 takes you through what standard-based education is, and I'm going to say to you, you will need to know about this. Standard-based education is an attempt to develop clear, measurable descriptions of what learners should know and be able to do as a result of education. And let me say to you, we are going to test this. This is what No Child Left Behind was about. Being able to measure the achievement of the students of these standards. Clear and measurable descriptions of what learners should know and be able to do as a result. So here's another. So we have performance standards. This is on the test. You'll have to know distinguish these performance things, are these standards apart. It's the identification of levels of proficiency that give groups of learners are expected to obtain. Levels. Performance has to do with levels of proficiencies. How well they can do something. Content standards, on the other hand, describe what teachers are supposed to teach and what young people in their classrooms are expected to learn. So content is what and how what they're expected to learn, and performance was that level, how well they should learn it. Many national subject matter groups have developed content standards for what they believe to be essential in their subjects. Like a national subject group, the math group, the one I belong to, my background's in special ed, is called CEC, the Council for Exceptional Children. And they have the Department of Education's ear as far as standards for special education. There's a group of math people, English people, reading people, writing people. These national subject matter groups, and they help develop these standards. Now, accountability on page 21, you add this. And I mean that. You are to put this in your notes after you come to the textbook, because it has some bias in it that I want you to look at and decide for yourself. Okay. Starts right here. You are to read these passages on accountability and write your own notes in the accountability. It's about 2 pages, page and a half there. You are to write and make your own in the note page on accountability. And you will not get credit for your notes being submitted unless you have done this. Efforts to ensure the new teacher quality. This was the other thing that has changed, and that is we're trying to work on the way we prepare teachers, and we have put a number of changes just in the last. I've been involved with the College of Education now for 11 years, and it's just a number of things that have changed in this way of preparing you, trying to assure quality standards. Okay, the first is what we call INTASC, Interstate New Teacher Assessment Support Consortium. Big words, this many meetings, 10 different meetings, and our College of Ed that I'm involved with helps make ours from here, and it's on our web page back here on this week here, the INTASC standards. This is their page. Takes you through the different ones. Standard number 1, content pedagogy, and it talks about what the candidate you should be able to do. The next one, student development, and then here are these things. Okay, that's what INTASC standards are. What does it stand for? Interstate New Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, INTASC standards. Praxis series. Do you know about Praxis? Have you had that? Well, let me take you to that quickly. The Praxis stuff. Praxis is a series of things for beginning teachers. Now, how many of you have heard of this Praxis? Well, there's several levels, and let me just see if I can walk you through them. Okay. Praxis 1, and this is the first one you get, is a test of academic skills. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is on the test. Praxis 1, known as the PPST, assessment of some institutions require their passing before being admitted to the teacher education, and that's the way it is at DSU, where I'm from, also at USD, SDSU. I know many College of Eds have gone to this, so at our place, don't even bother trying to apply to the College of Education unless you have passed this test. Basic skills, because we have a number of them that do not get to come in because of this test. Check it out. The next one is the Praxis 2 assessment to provide information about teachers' knowledge of the subject. If you're going to teach, math, you take the test on that. But even as an elementary teacher, you take a test on elementary subjects, elementary knowledge. And then Praxis 3 is classroom performance assessment, what you know about methods. And it says that usually takes place during the first year of teaching. In South Dakota, it takes place while you're student teaching. You have to pass this. This one here in South Dakota, you take before you're allowed to student teach. This one is before you're admitted to the College of Ed. This one here, before student teaching. And this one during. So in South Dakota, you must take and pass all 3 of these. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, you get to pay for each of these also. Praxis. And this I'm just going to leave here, the dispositions of a teacher that are desirable dispositions, like leadership and attitudes and work ethic and written expressions, verbal and written expressions, respectful characteristics, physical appearance, emotional stability, other things. And this is about portfolios. Don't do a lot with that. Okay, that is the lecture from chapter 1.